One of the reasons I found myself writing was because I knew that women's voices were, they were hushed or misconstrued, and oftentimes I didn't even see my reality in the books that I was reading. So I'm excited to see, 10 years in the writing game, and I'm even more excited to continue writing, diverse and authentic stories for women and the men that love them. Hi, I'm Nicole Williams, and I am the author of Tangled Web of True Love Tales. To celebrate the 10-year anniversary edition, I will be talking to some amazing professionals in their respective fields with the goal to get untangled. We will be discussing topics displayed in this fiction book and applying them to life. Conversation is key. And today I am excited about who is joining me. Hello guys, I'm so excited to basically have someone very special here, and she is the owner and founder of the Real Life Group, a real estate group with Keller Williams Realty of Southwest, and she is driven by the purpose to help. And so the Real Life Group helps every client begin their journey to experiencing life in real life, and real life starts at home. So please welcome Verna, I don't want to mess this up, Koleosho-Johnson.
All right.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole.
Yes.
I am super excited to join you on this journey, to share my experiences and just see what your viewers have to say.
Yes. So what we're doing is celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Tangled Web of True Love Tales. And one of the topics that I really feel is near and dear to my heart, but also the readers' hearts, is that idea of home is where the heart is.
Absolutely.
So in the book you'll find, characters who are dealing with topics or dealing with issues such as being homesick or even feeling anxiety around homecoming.
Yes.
Going back sometimes can be exciting, but then it could also be, kind of like, wow, did you have any unfinished business and things like that to take care of? So with that being said, I want to dive on in.
Okay.
The first question would be, when you think of home, what is it that you think of?
Oh man, home to me is where you learn everything. Both the things that you want or should be doing and the things that you shouldn't be doing. Home to me is where there should be love that's so abundant that it battles the hate that comes from the world. Home to me is where real life starts.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
Absolutely.
Now you have a unique journey as well, because I know we met years ago.
Yes.
We actually lived in the same neighborhood.
That's right.
But we were also teachers at the same time.
Yes.
So you've kind of taken a different turn now, being where you are now. When was it very prominent for you, or very when did you know that you needed to change lanes? What prompted you?
Absolutely. Great question. So, I never actually really went to school to be a teacher in terms of that was not my goal. It was just something I knew I could do, something I knew I had a gift for. And in a sense, I'm still teaching. I've just expanded my classroom, right? Yeah. But going into it, I got in, I was using teaching to kind of pay for my master's in psychology and things of that sort. And when I arrived in teaching, I found that I loved it.
Oh, wow.
I loved helping the students. I loved the psychology of it. And in a sense, I looked at it as, okay, instead of dealing with the problem later, let's create a solution now.
Oh, yeah.
So I stayed in education for about 12 years. And I knew when I had my children that I needed to get back on my path.
Wow.
Back into psychology, finishing my master's, which I did with my second child, pregnant with her. And my other son was getting ready to go to school. And so by the time he was getting ready to go into kindergarten, I knew I had to be done. So I created and crafted a plan, and with God's grace, I was able to carry out that plan. And so by that time, his kindergarten year, I was starting a new job outside of real estate that gave me the flexibility I needed to do to be a mother as well with him.
And that's leading into my next question, because how do you balance everything? We know as women, our lives are so diverse. People sometimes don't know the many roles that we have, and each of those roles can sometimes seem like their own distinct job. So how is it that you even find the time for yourself? What are some of the rituals that you have in place to make sure that you keep balance with all these different things going on?
That is the never-ending question. I think every woman who is juggling so many roles and so many expectations, has that question probably rock them to the core.
Yeah.
Every time they feel like they're letting something down,
yes,
and dropping some kind of ball. It's a question I'm still asking.
Mm-hmm.
However, what centers me first and foremost is my faith.
Okay.
It is my faith that keeps me centered. It keeps me, when I start jumping off of the edge, or I feel like someone's about to push me over the edge, it brings me back. And I think it's not necessarily a thing of balance, but it's more so something of counterbalance. Understanding what is your one thing at that particular moment that's going to make everything else easier, and deciding to drop something.
Wow.
And it's more of a juggling experience, but you're not dropping it and you haven't created it where it's like an ornament, so glass, where it'll shatter. You've created it to be more rubber, so it'll bounce right back to you.
I like that.
And at perfect timing, right? So if you ever watch a juggler, they can throw something in the air, let it bounce, and it's still in perfect rhythm with everything else. And so that rhythm and that balance, that walking on this tightrope type thing, or counterbalance, is Christ. So.
It is. It truly is. And one thing that the characters created go through, they each have their coming to Jesus moment, and it may be at different times in the book. But another thing that I wanted to touch on in this conversation is what are you finding to be important about staying connected with other women or other professionals? Do you have any tidbits on networking, like tips?
Absolutely. Oh, great questions. And it's all things that I'm like currently experiencing, because each time you reach a ceiling in your career or a ceiling in life, you're going to have to push through. And finding people who you identify with, who are either going through the same type of struggle or a little bit ahead of you, going through the same type of struggle, so you can bounce ideas off of each other, right? A three-stranded cord is harder to break, right? And two people, one can help the other person out. And so you also want to have somebody who's ahead of you, because they can see through the forest.
Right.
And they can guide you and be that GPS to help you through that storm. But I think it's important, most definitely important, to have people who are kind of going through similar things as you are, and then someone who's been on the outside. A mentor, a coach, anything.
That is so true. And just learning where you are in that place and having those people in place is so wise. And I'm glad you stated that. Now, one thing I do want to focus on now is home ownership. I know for me, I didn't know what I was getting into 100%. When I bought my house, it was 11 years ago. I was 25. It was definitely a dream of mine. But I had a lot of people around me like, why would you want to do that? You're a single woman. And, you know, I just remember it being such a taboo situation, but I knew why I needed to do it. And so I know that there are plenty of things along the way that I've learned that I wouldn't have even been aware of. I read many books before I did it, and you can only be so prepared. But in this landscape, I did want to see what you felt a person who's about to be or is considering becoming a homeowner. What advice would you give them? What are some things that they should consider before stepping in?
Right, most definitely. So a couple of things I heard you say, that you started very early and people had, you know, some confrontation with, should you be doing this or not, right? And I get it. I totally get it. There's so many schools of thought out there. However, I'm of the mindset that everybody should own a home. Scary, right? But let me tell you about that, right? Because there's multiple ways to slice this thing. The reason why I feel like everybody should own a home is because land is where everything is at. We will, as long as we continue to draw breath, always need some kind of land to establish as our own and to build upon, right? So it never goes away. The need never goes away. And people who have understand this, and so they purchase and they lease, or they purchase and they sell, and they control from all of that. So get your piece of control. Now, here's one thing that people don't consider and automatically believe, is that when I own the home, I have to live in it.
Okay, so we're getting to think outside the box sometimes too.
Just own the home. So if you want to establish and get some of the tax breaks out of it, if you want to actually live in the house and establish your family there, that's great. Just own the home. Utilize it as an investment tool if you need to. If you feel like you are 25 and you know you want home ownership, but then you're getting shade from all sides and shapes and forms, that's fine. Own the home and tell them how you're going to leverage this thing to build your wealth. Wow. And then back them off of you.
Wow,
exactly. Right? You can still go lease if you want to. You can rent and still have something that is not as terminal, is not as finite. And you can pop off and leave as you want to and whatever else, but make sure that home is helping to pay for that rent.
That's beautiful though.
It doesn't have to be that you own it and stay in it.
Right. And so that's really coming back to you knowing yourself and knowing your goal, and then just knowing what's best for you. And that is so key. So I'm glad that there are different options there for whatever you use your home for, but definitely have that conversation. One thing I want to end on, and I hate that we're having to end in general because I love, talking to you, but as we know that we're always growers, we're always moving forward. So based on where we are now, we've had our careers and we're still in our careers and we're evolving, but I would like for you to think about where you were as a 20-something-year-old. Let's say most of the characters, the average is about 25. Okay. So let's say, knowing what you know now, today, what would you say to your 25-year-old self?
Okay. That's because I'm very far from 25. But I don't really feel like I'm that far. I actually feel like life kind of not stopped, but that 27 is kind of seated in there for me. And my real estate journey actually started at 24. Okay. And so it's not too far-fetched to tell my 25-year-old self. I think what I would tell my 25-year-old self is run without fear.
Oh, wow.
Run without fear, run without doubt, and surround yourself with the people who run the same way. I think a lot of time was not wasted, but used to groom me. So I don't regret it. It was my germination period, and I think everybody else has their own germination period, right? You're a different flower than I am. However, if I had to go back and there was some type of accelerant agent that I could put on there, it would be to kind of just do that, just share that with her, so that the time was intentional as opposed to just going with the wind. Right. Yeah. I understand my purpose now more so than I did at 24, 25. And so I would also encourage my 25-year-old self to really seek Christ so you can understand your purpose. And when you understand your purpose, your why for doing everything, then things start to become a little bit more intentional. Even if the intentions are ill, right? But you know the route you're taking. And so then you're able to accept the results you're given.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, most definitely.
Well, I hate that we are out of time, but I am so gracious or so grateful that you were able to have the conversation. So thank you, Verna, for being here. Absolutely. And we also thank you guys for being here as well for the celebration of the 10-year anniversary of Tangled Web of True Love Tales. And guess what, guys? The conversation continues. So definitely stay tuned so you can see how to get in touch with us and how you can also get your book, Tangled Web of True Love Tales, as well, the anniversary edition. So we will be back.